Why do two different objects respond differently when the same force is applied to them? Because their masses are different. Why can air be compressed? Because the spaces between particles are large. Why are planetary orbits elliptical? Because of gravity and inertia. What effect does chronic stress have on the brain? It impairs hippocampal function. What are the three elements required for a reflex action? Sensory organ, nerve, and muscle. Why does light bend as it passes through a lens? Because its speed changes. By what principle is electricity generated in a generator? Motion of a conductor in a magnetic field. Why is DNA replicated when a cell divides? To preserve genetic information. From what did the formation of the solar system begin? The collapse of a nebula. What are the rings of Saturn mainly made of? Ice and rock fragments. What is the closest star to Earth? The Sun. Which gas makes up the largest proportion of Earth's atmosphere? Nitrogen. What is the outermost layer of Earth's atmosphere called? The exosphere. What is the positively charged particle located at the center of an atom? A proton. Which gas makes up the largest proportion of air? Nitrogen. What is the principle by which oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged in the lungs? Diffusion. During cell division, in which phase are chromosomes aligned at the center of the cell? Metaphase. What do we call the phenomenon in which the moon's shape changes from a full moon to a waning crescent? Lunar phase change. Which scale used to describe the strength of an earthquake measures the size of the earthquake's energy? Magnitude. Why does the surface of Mars appear red? Because of iron oxide. What is the event horizon of a black hole? The boundary beyond which not even light can escape. What does the wave-particle duality of the electron mean? That it has both particle and wave properties. Under what condition does superconductivity occur? Below a certain critical temperature. What does the gravitational lensing effect describe? The bending of light caused by mass. What do you call a wind that blows from the ocean toward the land? A sea breeze. What do we call the fact that Earth's lithosphere is divided into several pieces? Tectonic plates. What are the main factors that drive the circulation of seawater? Wind and density differences. Why does the surface of Mars appear red? Iron oxide. What is the largest volcano on Mars called? Olympus Mons. What is the shape of Earth's orbital path around the Sun? An ellipse. What is the largest planet in the solar system? Jupiter. What are the three states of matter? Solid, liquid, and gas. Which organ is responsible for blood circulation? The heart. What does Newton's third law of motion state? The law of action and reaction. What is the difference between an insulator and a conductor? A difference in electrical conductivity. How can the motion of an object thrown obliquely in a plane be viewed? As a combination of uniform horizontal motion and uniformly accelerated vertical motion. In what state must a circuit be for current to flow? It must be closed. What are the two main effects produced when an electric current flows? Heat and magnetism. Why do materials such as rubber and glass not conduct electricity? Because they have no free electrons. What is the main mechanism by which artificial intelligence acquires new information and improves its performance? Learning from large amounts of data. What do we call the phenomenon in which the Earth's average temperature is gradually rising? Global warming. What important role do white blood cells mainly play in our body's immune response? Eliminating pathogens and regulating immunity. What kinds of tasks can AI perform in place of humans in our daily lives? Repetitive tasks. What is the role of sensory nerves? Transmitting stimuli to the central nervous system. What do we call a machine that operates on its own and is programmed to perform specific tasks? An intelligent automatic machine. What is the key device that allows a robot to make autonomous decisions based on input information and programming? A control unit. Which part of a robot serves as its body? The structural frame. Which device allows a robot to grasp objects like a hand? A gripper. What is located at the center of an atom? The atomic nucleus. Where are electrons found in an atom? They move around the atomic nucleus. What kind of electric charge does an electron have? A negative charge. What property is determined by the number of protons in an atom? The type of element. What is the main reason that breathing becomes rapid during strenuous exercise? Increased oxygen demand and removal of carbon dioxide. What is the first physiological response that changes when you start exercising? An increase in breathing rate and heart rate. In what shape are the stars gathered in a globular cluster? In a spherical shape. What is the phenomenon called when applying a force to an object causes its state of motion to change? Acceleration. What is absolutely necessary for a stationary object to start moving? A force. What two forces are in equilibrium on a book resting on a desk? Gravity and the normal force. What condition is required for an object to keep moving without changing its speed or direction? A balance of forces. What is it called when sound is heard returning in a cave? An echo. Why is sound not heard as well underwater? Because of the difference in the density of the medium. What happens to a circuit when the switch is opened? It becomes an open circuit. For what function are muscle cells specialized? Contraction and relaxation. What must living organisms do with energy in order to survive? Metabolize it. Why is the temperature difference between day and night on Mercury so great? Because it has almost no atmosphere. What is the biggest difference between terrestrial planets and Jovian planets? Their composition of rock versus gas. In which part of the brain is visual information mainly processed? The occipital lobe. Which part of the brain finally controls movement? Cerebellum. What technology is mainly used for a robot to determine its position? GPS. What is the process by which the body recovers after exercise? Normalization of metabolism. Why do wearable devices send warning sounds? To alert you to health abnormalities. Why does your heart beat faster when you feel fear? Because of autonomic nervous system responses. What frictional force acts when an object is sliding? Kinetic friction. What natural phenomenon is formed when light is refracted and reflected by water droplets? A rainbow. In an electric motor, what causes the coil to rotate? The interaction between electric current and magnetic field. What is a fault? A fracture surface in the crust. Why can AI speakers answer questions? Because of natural language processing. Why is it difficult for living organisms to survive where gravity is too weak? Because fluid circulation becomes difficult. Why does Neptune appear blue? Because of its methane atmosphere. What structure protects the brain from external shocks? The skull and cerebrospinal fluid. What structure connects the brain and the spinal cord? The brainstem. Is radiation visible to the naked eye? No. What is the smallest grouping of galaxies called? A single galaxy. What is the chemical symbol of the element with atomic number 8? O. What is the name of the largest natural satellite orbiting Earth? The Moon. Among seismic waves, which wave travels along the Earth's surface and causes the most damage? L waves. What do we call the physical region formed around a current-carrying conductor? A magnetic field. What is the method that uses radioactive carbon in nature to determine the ages of ancient organisms? Radiocarbon dating. What do we call the ratio of the amount of water vapor in the air to the amount at saturation? Relative humidity. What is the phenomenon called in which water is drawn up from plant roots to the leaves? Transpiration. In thermoregulation in animals, what is the mode of heat loss that occurs without sweating? Radiation. What is the phenomenon called in which corals lose their symbiotic algae and turn white due to climate change? Coral bleaching. What is the force called that acts on a current-carrying conductor placed perpendicular to a magnetic field? Valanga force. In electromagnetic induction, which law explains the direction of the induced current? Lenz's law. What is the approximate average salinity of the oceans, in percent? About 3.5%. What is the main component of dry ice? Carbon dioxide. In the human ear, where is the cochlea that detects sound located? In the inner ear. What is the basic structural and functional unit of living organisms? The sail. What is the organ that filters waste products produced in our body from the blood? The kidneys. What covers about 70% of the Earth's surface? The ocean. What type of cloud is mainly formed when a cold front passes? Cumulonimbus clouds. What is the negatively charged particle that orbits around the atomic nucleus? An electron. What do we call the process by which rocks break down and become soil? Weathering. What is the phenomenon in which a wave bends around an obstacle and continues into the region behind it? Diffraction. During an earthquake, what is the point on the Earth's surface where the ground cracks and shakes called? Epicenter. In the relationship between work and energy, what of an object changes when work is done on it? Its energy. Which of Mendel's laws states that a pair of alleles separates during the formation of gametes? The law of segregation. Whose law states that the pressure and volume of a gas are inversely proportional? Boyle's law. After the red giant stage in a star's life, what is the final stage of a low-mass star? White dwarf. What is the main cause of the rock cycle on Earth? Plate movement and weathering. Why do car tires have grooves? To increase friction. Why is it said that nerves are difficult to regenerate? Because they have low capacity for cell division. What is the system called in which nerves branching from the brain and spinal cord spread throughout the entire body? The peripheral nervous system. In what way do neurons transmit signals? Through electrical signals and chemical signals. Which brain hormone mainly acts when a person feels love? Oxytocin. What problem in judgment can arise when emotions are excessively strong? Interference with rational thinking. What is a characteristic of galaxies that have spiral arms? They have active star formation. What property of the universe can be inferred from galaxies that are moving away? That the universe is expanding. What protein in human blood transports oxygen? Hemoglobin. What is the process called in which plants release water vapor into the air through stomata? Transpiration. What is the representative indicator used to determine whether a solution is acidic or basic? pH. What is the organ in the human body that filters waste products from the blood? The kidneys. What is the phenomenon called when water in the gaseous state changes into a liquid? Condensation. What do we call a pure substance made of atoms of two or more different elements chemically bonded together? A compound. What is the fatigue-causing substance produced in muscles when you run fast? Lactic acid. What is the basic structural unit of a living organism? The cell. Which tissue in plant stems transports water and minerals? The xylem. Which organ in plants absorbs water and nutrients? The roots. Which cell organelles synthesize proteins according to genetic information? Ribosomes. What is the phenomenon called in which leaves of a plant grow toward sunlight? Phototropism. What makes up about 70% of Earth's surface? Water. Which seismic wave travels along Earth's surface? Surface waves. What do you call the low wind region at the center of a typhoon? The eye of the typhoon. What do you call a landform created by the impact of a meteorite? A meteorite crater. What do you call the phenomenon in which Earth's annual average temperature gradually increases? Global warming. What is the smallest planet in the solar system? Mercury. Why is the surface of Mars red? Because of iron oxide. Which gas in Earth's atmosphere absorbs ultraviolet radiation? Ozone. What do you call the wind that blows from the sea toward the land? A sea breeze. Which layer inside Earth exists in a liquid state? The outer core. Which planet in the solar system has the largest number of moons? Jupiter. What do you call the layer between surface water and deep water in the ocean where temperature changes rapidly? The thermocline. What do you call the seismically active region around the Pacific Ocean where many volcanoes and earthquakes occur? The Ring of Fire. What is the shape of Earth's orbital path as it revolves around the Sun? An ellipse. What is the main cause of climate change? The increase in greenhouse gases. Why do forests contribute to carbon neutrality? Because they absorb carbon dioxide. What principle allows a vacuum cleaner to suck in dust? Difference in air pressure. What technology allows a drone to move along a route without being manually controlled? GPS-based autonomous flight. What are the two core technologies that are essential for the operation of self-driving cars and drones? Sensors and artificial intelligence. Which sensor plays a key role in helping a drone maintain stable flight posture even under the influence of wind? A gyroscope sensor. Which planet has mass and radius most similar to Earth's? Venus. What kind of wavelength does a TV remote control use? Infrared. How does a Bluetooth speaker transmit sound? By sending wireless signals. Why can a drone take off and land automatically? Because of autonomous flight algorithms. What do you call a medicine given to stimulate the immune system and help it produce antibodies against specific pathogens to prevent disease? A vaccine. What microorganism cannot survive or reproduce on its own, replicates only inside host cells, and can cause diseases such as the common cold, influenza, and COVID-19? A virus. What do you call single-celled microorganisms, some of which cause disease while others aid gut health or the production of fermented foods. Bacteria. What substance is most commonly used as an energy source by living organisms? Carbohydrates. Which gas keeps a candle from going out in air? Oxygen. What is the phenomenon called when the surface of a soap bubble shows rainbow colors? Interference. What is the lowest layer of Earth's atmosphere called? The troposphere. Which phase of the moon corresponds to the first day of the lunar month? New moon. What is the dark, flat terrain on the moon's surface called? A lunar mare. What is the instrument called that measures the magnitude of earthquakes? A seismograph. What term describes the differences in elevation of Earth's surface? Relief. What is the phenomenon called when water heated by Earth's internal heat rises to the surface? A hot spring. What are the north and south poles of Earth's magnetic field called? Magnetic poles. What is the wind called that is generated by temperature differences between land and sea? Land and sea breezes. Which gas makes up the largest proportion of Earth's atmosphere? Nitrogen. Which planet is the largest in size in the solar system? Jupiter. Excluding the Sun, which star appears brightest in the sky as seen from Earth? Sirius. What is the outermost layer inside the Earth called? The crust. What is the dark plane on the moon's surface called? A lunar mare. What is the main reason that seasons change due to Earth's revolution around the Sun? The tilt of Earth's axis. What is the largest ocean on Earth? The Pacific Ocean. Which planet in the solar system has the largest and most distinct ring system? Saturn. What is the representative anthropogenic greenhouse gas that intensifies global warming? Carbon dioxide. When clouds pass over a high mountain, on which side does the rain fall? Windward side. What is the second most abundant gas in Earth's atmosphere? Oxygen. Among volcanic ejecta, what do we call the smallest rock fragments? Volcanic ash. Which part of Earth's internal structure is the hottest layer? The inner core. What kind of electricity is generated when two objects come into contact and are rubbed together? Frictional electricity. In an electric circuit, what is the device that controls the flow of current? . switch. What is the force called when two objects pull on each other? Attractive force. What is produced around a coil through which electric current flows? Magnetic field. What is the phenomenon called when the image in a mirror appears left-right reversed? Lateral inversion. What is the phenomenon called when white light passes through a prism and spreads into different colors? Dispersion. What is the force called that hinders the motion of an object? Friction. What type of motion appears when a stretched spring is released? Vibration. As the distance between two objects increases, how does the gravitational force between them change? It decreases. Why does an object that was at rest begin to move? Because a force acts on it. As the potential difference between two conductors increases, how does the current change? It increases. As the mass of an object increases, how does its inertia change? It increases. When iron filings are sprinkled between magnets, what pattern is formed? Magnetic lines. What reaction occurs when an acidic solution and a basic solution are mixed? Neutralization. What do we call the change of state when a liquid substance becomes a solid? Solidification. What is the substance that carries a person's genetic information? DNA. Where is the magnetic force of a magnet the strongest? At its two ends. During cell division, at what stage are chromosomes replicated? Interphase. What substance is always produced in a neutralization reaction? Water. Thanks for watching all the way through. Share your science knowledge in the comments. Your support helps us create even more science quizzes. See you in the next one.